Hello, everybody. I'd like to introduce you to Ryan Jones from Trader Resources Limited. Thanks for joining us today, Ryan.
Thanks for having us, David.
Absolute pleasure. Please tell us about your business, what you do, and where it fits in the supply chain cycle.
So Trader Resources fits in the supply chain cycle from an infrastructure perspective. We're a trailer contract hire and rental company. We're based in Hertfordshire, but we cover nationwide from anywhere from Cornwall up to Scotland. And what we focus on mainly is understanding customers' freight profiles and then manufacturing trailers in line with what their requirements are, whether that be side aperture for freight profile, weight saving to achieve maximum weight on trailers, livery designs from a marketing perspective to understand what their requirements are. We build their trailers to their specification for a long-term lease.
And do you get involved in the liveries and all that stuff? What we see when it's up and down the motorways that I see, you do that. Is that part of the trailer manufacturing, or is that done somewhere else?
No, so that's all involved with us. So we really sit in between the customer and the manufacturer. So as a contract hire company, which our model is contract hire predominantly more than the rental perspective. So we're building bespoke trailers for customers' needs on long-term deals, whether that be 3, 5, 7 or 10 years. So we sit in between the manufacturer and the customer. We speak to the customer. What is their freight profile? What are they trying to achieve? If there is any marketing, are they looking to achieve anything with delivery? And we can always send recommendations, whether that be using, like you can use things called an RC5 lacquer, which is a gloss over the curtains that works on certain colours, because you don't get like longevity of curtains out in, say, like a white curtain to what you would with a blue. So we're always there for them recommendations. We sit there in between the customer, making sure the spec is what they require, and then we build it with one of our manufacturing partners. And then also we add on an R&M maintenance package to basically achieve a fixed cost for the customer in line with their contractor, with their customer, so they've got a fixed cost for a certain period of time.
Thank you for going up. Really appreciate that. One question I ask everyone: what brought you into the lovely logistics world?
I don't want to say bad luck, but family. So Trader Resources, it was originally started by my grandfather, which is now the chairman of the business, Des O'Connor. He got his logistics and I suppose industry knowledge from being a sales director at 2 UK manufacturers, which was Munchcon Trailers and SDC Trailers in the early 90s. He, alongside them businesses, took them to the UK market leading manufacturers, and then in the late 90s he decided to take things into his own hands and set up on his own with a partner of his, which was a long-standing customer, trailer purchaser at the time. So Des O'Connor originally started the business just buying and selling trailers, and then we just naturally progressed and grew into a contract hire and rental company from there. How did I get brought into it? I suppose obviously through that family influence. When I was at school, it was always upon me that I'd end up in this industry. But I started from a young age at 15, and we'll get onto that later about infrastructure for young people. But there was good opportunities when I was at school to take on college courses from a work experience perspective and sort of split your academic time at school with practical learning. So I've done an MVQ in welding, and I also done a HGV mechanics program at 2 local colleges to myself at the time, which was in Dunstable. And then I started in the workshop, progressed through the workshop up into the office, looking after subcontractors, warranty and maintenance, because I had that mechanical background and knowledge. I could understand how long jobs should take, quality control of what the job should be. And then I think naturally when you become a go-to person for sort of warranty and service and maintenance, there's always an element of selling, because you're getting things done for customers, aren't you? And you become their go-to guy. So that just naturally progressed. And then I went up to a sales manager role, then sales director, and then today I'm sat there as manager director.
Oh, fantastic. And all that experience fits nicely into, when you're working with clients, you can what goes on, what can be done within timescales, what can't be done, all those things. That's really useful. tell us a bit about your sector and how you see the sector developing over the next few years.
So I think in regards to our sector, and I've took some notes down today, but I think the biggest change we've had, and we're probably going to continue to have, is the introduction of technology on trailers. So there's obviously a real big influence from the DVSA now with the Guide to Roadworthiness, with the expectation of rolling road brake tests on every service inspection. There's a lot of variables in regards to weights and stuff, and triaxles and semi-axle trailers, but obviously the expectation with the rolling road brake test means that they've now brought on EBPMS, which is electric brake performance monitoring systems. And that's something that we've got used to probably over the last maybe 2 to 3 years, because we foresaw that this was probably going to come in. And it started as a recommendation, but like all things, recommendations become strong recommendations, expectations. So I think the introduction of technology to improve safety, compliance and efficiency on trailers is really going to be the big influence. We've seen recently that the Europeans have now brought in tyre pressure monitoring systems as standard that have to be fitted on all new build trailers. Whether the UK will follow suit on that, I'm unsure, but we normally do look for the guidance from the European market, and that will be another step to adding technology to trailers where we haven't had in the past.
Yeah, and I imagine at some point that will be a must-have rather than a nice-to-have. Yeah, at some point, like duplication. Okay. The next question was going to be, what are the biggest opportunities and threats in the sector, next 3 to 5 years, because, will electric vehicles, for example, will that change trailer world or not?
So we don't get involved in trucks or units, so we purely car and trailers. We are seeing, obviously, we're always involved in what units customers are using and utilising. I think electric trucks, obviously, they do have a lot of beneficial. They are beneficial for the end user, but I think obviously then the downside of that is the cost implications. And as we all know, it's a very tight market in logistics and transport. So until they can get the balance right, and I don't operate units, so I don't know, but I hear up and down stories about the infrastructure that's available there for these electric units. I think it's probably too early to call. Is it a step in the right direction? Of course it is, but have we got the right balance of infrastructure and cost analysis against it? I'm unsure.
Okay, and with the in the car automotive world, we've done a couple of conversations on that manufacturing is going much more to the Far East. Do you think that could affect the trailer market as well, either positively or negatively?
I think if you look at UK manufacturing as a whole now, I think probably 3 of the UK leading manufacturers, they do look at alternative chassis supply. But there's not a lot of, privately owned manufacturers out there anymore. Is it positive or negative? I think as long as the quality control's there and the product is the same quality product and it stands against the test of time, I think it's a natural progression. Obviously, if you look at a trailer from a manufacturing perspective, a lot of components are now all from the European market, whether that be lighting and wiring, curtains, a lot of flooring. We've had difficulties with flooring in the past due to obviously the Ukraine-Russia thing. We've had component issues with Brexit, with ECUs. I think you can't put it on a specific component, but a lot of the stuff that comes into our industry now is imported for the manufacturing market. And ultimately, we're struggling with skill set in the UK, and we're struggling for people and for personnel. So the more that we can get in pre-built, as long as it's a good standard, I can't see that being a negative impact on the market whatsoever. We'd all love to sit here and say we all want UK manufacturers. And if you, like I said, if you do some research, at least top 3 of the UK manufacturers have been purchased in the last 10 years and not privately owned anymore. And there is influence to import more components in. But I think that's just naturally the way, not just our sector. I think as a nation, it's going in that direction, unfortunately.
Yeah, and market forcing prices always has a big effect, doesn't it? Because everyone wants to be, the best product, etc. But obviously, price becomes part of the mix always. It's not the be all and end all, but it's part of the mix. So that's definitely a challenge. What do you see as the biggest opportunities for the sector you work in, and what may happen?
So I think if you look through past experience, probably a good opportunity for us is the time that we're in at the moment. With obviously hiked in interest rate, manufacturing prices probably being not an all-time high, but a lot higher than what people have been used to post-COVID. So as a contract hire and rental company, that brings opportunities for us because the cost of borrowing is too high for the end user. With obviously the variables in running a trailer, whether that be from a maintenance perspective, tyre control and stuff like that, giving the customers opportunity in a time of uncertainty to fix a cost for a certain period of time. I think that gives them peace of mind moving forward with their customer base, especially if they work on a cost plus basis. So that's a massive opportunity for us in these times that people look at the contract hire and rental market when cost of borrowing is high and when manufacturing prices are maybe higher than they have been for them before, to look at utilising a rental partner.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So it almost be the equivalent, say, someone like me had a mortgage. It's like a fixed term mortgage for a period, so you know what you're paying, and you got that guarantee of provision for a period, which is good, really good, really useful. Yeah, and like you say, when you're in cost plus or a tight margin industry, which the whole industry is, keeping your costs in check is critical, isn't it? Absolutely critical. So, no, thanks for going through that with us, Ryan. What are people in the sector not talking about that perhaps they should be?
I think if we go back onto what you mentioned about electric trucks, I think we need to look at probably what we do in the trailer manufacturing. Trailer manufacturing, trailer's a trailer. It's not a simple piece of equipment, but between manufacturers, apart from specifications, I think we need to look at innovation, maybe adding some sort of sustainability into trailer manufacturing. There's a lot of probably unsustainable disposals of the trailers, whether that be tyres or curtains. Like, you can imagine the amount of trailer curtains the industry get through in a year, which is always a difficult thing to do. None of us want to keep putting them in landfill. So there's something to look at that, but that comes with its own complications because you've obviously got to upkeep ENXL approval to obviously withhold the load and it be safe for the public. So, but I think that needs looking at. Maybe not as much as it should have, the introduction of solar in trailer manufacturing. And just look at creating a more sustainable trailer or a more sustainable way of disposing of trailers for the future.
No, that's good. That's good. And that we said that nicely fits into the next question. So how do you see the green transition, impacting your sector? Because my viewpoint and anecdotally is everyone wants to be greener, but no one wants to pay for it, without being too cynical. So how do you see that, impacting your sector and the trailer manufacturing and rentals?
So I think like I said, with a trailer, you got your tyres and you got your trailers. It's very hard to introduce that to become greener. That's why I think you've started with the units and trying to get electric influence on the units. But from a very simple perspective, I think going back to the technology in regards to EBPMS, that's got to be the very beginning of trying to improve efficiencies. Because obviously these telematics now can record weight. You can record when the trailer is loaded, when it's not loaded, when it's overloaded, how many miles it does per day, how many miles it does per week, per month, per annum. And all that data can be put into an infrastructure to improve drivers' efficiency, ultimately taking trailers off the road and not running empty and being utilised the correct way to help efficiency and a more sustainable future. I think EBPMS as well. People without EBPMS are having to take trailers to local brake testing facilities, which could be average of 10, 15 miles each way 40 miles 4 times a year. That's additional mileage that we're putting out there that you don't necessarily need to do with EBPMS. So I think that will encourage it. So I do think, back to the technology again, we mentioned on tyre pressure monitoring systems, that's obviously has a big effect because we know how damaging tyres can be. If we're monitoring tyre pressure and we're upkeeping them to the correct standards, ultimately avoiding blowouts, we're using less tyres, and we're avoiding traffic and M1 diversions because we're getting punctures and blowouts. So that's got to be a positive impact, right?
Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. And do you think legislation will help drive it through, or can the marketplace do it by itself?
I think as an operator these days, you need to be seen to be proactive. I think legislation is always going to be there and be a guidance, and it's been a great example of this in EBPMS. But although from April this year it has become a key point, there's been a lot of customers and a lot of people that we've been working with that do earn recognition or take influence from the RHO have tried to be above the curve. So I think a lot of hauliers will always try and be above the curve because obviously their operator's license is detrimental to their operation. So they're always going to be trying to do above and beyond to be health and safety compliant and have a safer environment for not just their drivers but public as well.
No, that's great, and let's hope we can continue to get there with that legislation, because good legislation drives the right activity. Poor legislation doesn't, and sometimes you only know when you look back with hindsight, the exact science of hindsight.
It's got a clear direction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and thank you for that, Ryan. What development in the sector has surprised you most in your career so far?
I was thinking about this earlier because it's a very good question. I suppose if we look at it from my career so far, I'm probably shocked the amount of casualties that we've had in the haulage industry and how low margin that industry actually is, with so many variables, whether that be drivers' wages, fuel, infrastructure, manufacturing costs, trucks, trailers, etc. I think that's really surprised me. And then the other side is really how market demand probably drives residual value on assets. For instance, 2020, 21 through the COVID era, assets were getting sold, second life assets for nearly 30, 40, maybe 50% above what their actual real market residuals was, due to a shortage in fleet. And now we look at an overpopulated market now, and the residual values are can be 20, 30% down to what people's RVs are. And that has a detrimental impact, not just on us as a rental company, because as contract hire, we have to work on residual values to be able to offer contract hire, but also as a haulier, when they're trying to assess book values and whatnot, the actual fluctuation in your market, in your residual value, dependent on the market at the time, is a real difficult thing to pinpoint.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. You're right, and the change in residual values, as you described very nicely. I remember hearing again anecdotally where people second-hand vehicles were suddenly worth a lot more than they were, a few months before. And probably, like you say, it's gone the other way around now, and particularly the depreciation of electric vehicles is really hard. And behind that, if technology moves quickly, that will exacerbate that situation, won't it? So that's very interesting. And the final question we're asking to everyone, Ryan, is if you could speak to the Prime Minister, then what do you ask them to do to help your business grow and flourish?
I think our biggest problem in our sector would be a skill shortage of skill sets, and to just really look at providing more infrastructure, more platforms for practical learning for kids. Some kids thrive more under practical than they do academic, and there's a real severe lack of learning platforms and college courses, whether that's to get people into HGV mechanics, even automotive mechanics, welding, and I just think we're really lacking them platforms, and that that platform start for your transport managers, for your manufacturing partners, for your potential business owners, for your drivers, and to just encourage the youth that are more practical, to give them a platform to learn and develop, to get into a working environment.
I just want to say thanks again for your time and your input, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will really enjoy it. Thanks again.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.